Hello, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Tech Talk Tuesdays. I'm Zach, by myself today, and we will go over news, we will give you guys a tip, and then we will get into our demonstration. Microsoft is developing a security chip called Microsoft Pluton. Microsoft is working with Intel, AMD, and Qualcomm CPU manufacturers to make this chip part of their future designs. This is supposed to make PCs running Windows more difficult to hack. It is supposed to patch CPU-based attacks like we saw with the Spectre and Meltdown attacks. And Pluton will make them similar in security to the Xbox One, which is what they're modeling Pluton after. NASA has selected SpaceX to provide the human landing system for its next moon program. This landing system will be part of the process needed to get the next set of humans on the moon. SpaceX won this bid at $2.9 billion over Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin and Alabama-based military and space contractor Dynetics. Dogecoin surged in value from 5 cents to over 40 cents last week over the period of a week. Dogecoin started out as and is labeled as a meme coin, but it actually holds a notable value now, which was not what it was meant to be. It really hit the spotlight when Elon Musk tweeted about it and everybody flocked to investing in it. Twitch, the popular streaming website, has taken the fight back against VBots. They discovered 7.5 million bots on their website. These come in the form of either follow bots or view bots. These are against Twitch TOS, or terms of service. They make it appear as if there's human engagement or viewers when there's actually not on a live stream. NASA successfully autonomously piloted their rover helicopter on Mars yesterday if you're watching on Tuesdays. They briefly took the helicopter up to 10 feet, hovered, and then landed back on the ground with it. This is the first powered flight completed on another planet. And the engineers were notified 3 hours after the helicopter actually took the flight because of the 178 million miles the data burst had to travel to get back to Earth to let them know. Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Co., also known as TSMC for short, has released that the current semiconductor shortage is not likely to go away anytime soon. This is part of what is causing the lack of graphics cards, GPUs for short. They think that it will probably last into 2023, which stinks big time, but what are you going to do? They're currently manufacturing at full capacity, and there's just not enough to meet demand. They're doing what they can to upgrade their facilities to pump out more. But until 2023, they don't think they'll be up to what the current demand is. Some of the companies who use the TSMC are NVIDIA, of course, Apple, Broadcom, and Qualcomm. SK Hynix, a South Korean semiconductor manufacturer, has officially announced the world's first 64-gigabyte DDR5 RAM. This is a step above the current DDR4 RAM, and then past generations is DDR2, DDR3. And these modules operate at 1.8 times the speed of DDR4 modules, and they use 20% less power. SK Hynix made its first announcement on 16-gigabyte DDR5 modules back in 2018, and they've been full steam ahead on developing their DDR5 RAM. For this week's tech tip, we want to encourage all of you viewers to switch off of an HDD hard drive to an SSD drive. So we've showed you this before in a past tech talk when we discussed parts, but this is what this one, both of these have their plates taken off. This would normally be a silver backing right here, but these are what HDDs look like. They have a spinning disk on the inside, and then this goes back and forth on there to read the disk as it spits around. These don't have any moving parts inside at all like these two do here. And we are limited to how fast this disk can spin, and while it's pretty dang fast, this doesn't have any at all, and it can, in a sense, just reach up and grab what it wants. So I think of it as a merry-go-round. If somebody's standing on the outside and they want to hit the person that's sitting on the edge, they have to wait till that gets around every time. Well, we have to wait till this gets around every time to access the data on where it is placed on this platter. This is, in a sense, people are just standing in a line, and then you can just walk up and grab whoever you want to, or you can just grab the data whenever you would like to. These are significantly faster than these two are. This is one that you would see in a desktop, and then this is one you would see in a laptop. If you are unsure which kind of drive you have in your computer, it is always worth taking it into a shop like ours and just having them take a look at it to tell you yay or nay on whether you do or not, because upgrading to one of these is almost the best thing you can do at this point in regard to making your computer operate better. So getting into today's demonstration, I'm going to walk you guys through a complete installation of Windows 10 and some installation of common web browsers. I'm going to focus on Brave and Firefox. I'm going to install an extension for ad blocking. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. We are going to verify that Windows Defender is functioning as needed. And then we are going to uninstall some programs that we wouldn't be using. Because in my opinion, if you're not using them, there's no need that it needs to be on the computer. So we will get going here. So as you can see here, we have the first page you're going to see when you're loading up a new copy of Windows. I am going to skip actually what you would do before that is you would load it onto a USB drive using their media creation tool, and then you would plug it in and then you would boot off of that. But I think that surpasses this a little bit for what I'm wanting to do. So we'll just start right here. So we are going to hit next, and then we are going to install. And then it's going to take me into some of their questions and the disk partitioning aspect of this. I don't have a product key. If you did have one, you would type it in here, and that would give you an activated Windows operating system. But I'm going to skip that. And we're just going to go with the basic home. As you can see here, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of distributions of Windows 10. The most common are here Home, which is what we're going to use, and then the Pro here. We'll go select that. We'll go next. We will sign our life away on their terms. We will go next. We will do a custom install because this is our first time. The other one is if you needed to reinstall on a Windows operating system that was already present, it would try to keep some of your files. So here's the drive I have allocated to it. It's only 40 gigabytes because I'm actually running Windows here in a virtual machine inside the actual host on my laptop. So you're only seeing 40 gigs, which is what I allocated to that virtual machine. For any standard computer, you're going to see maybe 250 gigs, 500 gigs, or maybe even a terabyte, depending on what your specs are. So we're just going to go next on this one, and then it's just going to start loading. So now it's loading all the files necessary to install Windows 10. Now that Windows has finished installing the operating system, we are into a little more of the setup again. It'll first come up, and Cortana, which is the virtual assistant, will start talking to you. You can mute her by going down here. Voice mode on. And she just said something, but we don't have a mic hooked up to it, which is okay because I'm turning it off anyways. So that's disabled. We will select the United States. You select whichever country you're from. And of course your keyboard layout, if you're in the States, it's probably US. If you're somewhere else, select where else, whatever keyboard you're using. I don't have a second keyboard, so we will skip that. And now it's going to ask who's using this PC. This will be whoever is using this PC, so in my case, we'll put Zach. And now it wants a password. So we will put a password on it and go next. Confirm that password. And we will go next. And now it's going to want some security questions. You can pick whichever ones you want to. I can't give away my answers now. So I'm just going to put answer, but you can answer them seriously or not seriously. Sometimes people use these as additional means of security. So if they select what's the name of the city where your parents met, you'll actually put a phrase in, and it's not even a city. So somebody read this and they were trying to guess a city, they're not going to be even close to it because your answer isn't a city. And it's going to ask us for 3 of them. First pet's name, answer 2. And the last one, answer 3. So now it's going to ask us to choose the privacy settings for this device. Typically, I turn every single one of these off. There's one that people may actually want on. It depends on how much location stuff you do with your device. If you're using a desktop, I would always recommend to turn location off. But if you have a laptop, I guess there's some cases in which you could leave it on. But even with my own laptops, I never leave location on. I turn all of these off. This one asks for online speech recognition, of course, location, find my device, diagnostic data, inking and typing, tailoring your experiences, and then advertising ID down here on the bottom. We'll accept having them all off. So Cortana, which I briefly mentioned a minute ago, it's going to ask again if you would like this, I don't know if it's actually an AI, but this assistant to work on your computer. I don't like it, just because I don't use it. I'm sure it works just fine, but it's just not something that I use. You can either accept or not now. I'm going to not now because I don't want to use it. So now it's going to do its own thing, and the next thing we should see is a login screen for the desktop. This typically takes a few minutes, and depending on how quick your computer is. Speaking back to our tip of the day, the faster your hard drive is, the faster this process is going to be for you. So it actually bypassed the login screen and we are straight into the desktop, maybe later. So here's what you'll see on a fresh installation of Windows 10. So we are now onto the desktop after installing Windows 10. So the first thing I typically do is go down here to the system tray, and I will check our antivirus, which is Windows Defender. It is the built-in antivirus on Windows 10. It is free, and it works very well for most people's purposes. So we can go in here and see if there's anything we need to double check before we set it to the side and let it do its thing. Right here it is prompting us to set up OneDrive, which is the cloud-based storage that Microsoft offers with a Microsoft account. We aren't going to use that in this demonstration, so we can dismiss, and we can see that all of our checks are now green, and that can basically just sit to run in the background, and it will constantly monitor the computer for downloading something that's bad or anything of that case. So we can, if your clock is incorrect, we can change our clock to the correct time. And I think the best way to do it is to go down into here into our search. I really like using this search box. It gets me around very quickly instead of, clicking on, trying to find the program to click on, going into here and then scrolling. We can just search for what we're going to do, change the time and date. So I just typed in time and it auto-populates to what it thinks we want, and it's very good about getting it right most of the time. So we will go down here to our time zone, and me being Central Time, I will change it to that. And now you can see that we are on the correct time. We can close out of that. And now we can go into our programs and see if there's anything that we don't want in here because we aren't going to use it. So 3D viewer, it can be cool, but if I'm not going to use something on my computer, I don't want it on here. So I'm going to go ahead and uninstall this. And in any case, on uninstalling programs, this is how you would do it. We can go down here some more, see if there's anything else. Some of this stuff it won't let you uninstall. That's what I thought. I figured Cortana would be one that it won't let you. And everything else seems to be all right. Actually, I'll uninstall this weather one too because I just use the KWCH one that Wichita, Kansas offers through the web. They have a pretty good one, so I typically use that one instead of Windows's. If you want to leave these down here, and then the next thing we can do is customize our tray. In my case, I get rid of these, and I don't use Windows Mail, so I get rid of that one too. It cleans stuff up a little bit. We can see that we're connected to the internet down here. This computer and little plug indicates a hardwired connection, while the 3 bars indicate a wireless connection. So we will go into our updates next. Once again, click on this search in the bottom left, and we will type update, and we want to check for updates. Sometimes the Windows installation media in which you installed Windows 10 on isn't always up to date. So we can go in here, and there will be a bar here that says check for updates. We can click that. It will populate whatever updates you need. It'll install them, and then we can go ahead and click install now to install them. And this can run in the background, and once it's finished, it's going to ask us to restart the computer, but we can do that later after we do some more setup. So the Microsoft Edge here has become a pretty decent web browser, but they aren't as privacy oriented as I would like them to be. And there's other browsers that are as much privacy oriented as I like, so I use a different web browser. So we can actually go down here and launch. And for the first web browser, I'm going to download 2. I'm going to download Brave, which is a very good out-of-the-box. I will show you how to set it up. And then after that, I'm going to download Firefox, which is more of a set it up yourself and tweak it to exactly how you want it. That's how I like to do things because then I know how everything functions. So first, we will go get Brave. Brave has a built-in ad blocker, and they do not save your data. And if they do, it's anonymous. We'll open this file up. This is the installer down here. It's going to prompt us. This is a user account control. It's just, hey, something's trying to run. Are you sure you want it to run? We do. We know it's a safe program. And after this is done downloading, we should have Brave to use to browse the web. All right, so now that it is complete, we can minimize Microsoft Edge, and we can see that Brave automatically pulls up after our first installation. So it's going to give us a little introduction. You can skip it down here if you don't want to go through it, but if you go next, it shows you some of the features that is built into Brave, a little bit about its bookmarks, about the built-in ad blocker that they use, the default search engine. They recommend that you use DuckDuckGo. A lot of people use Google, but I'm one of the people that prefers to use DuckDuckGo. Its results aren't as good as Google, of course, because Google has been around for so long and has scraped so much of the web that it's a very good web browser. DuckDuckGo can be hit and miss sometimes, but I would take a privacy-oriented browser that's not quite as good with search results every day over Google, which has fantastic search results, but they scrape your data and collect hordes of it. Go next here, and now it's pulled up ready to use. So you can see that Brave actually displays to you its effectiveness. It displays the amount of trackers and ads that it blocks. As you use it, this number will go up. It displays the bandwidth saved. This will go up as you use it. And then the time saved of your web browsing. This number will also go up as you use it. So that's Brave in a nutshell. It's installed, ready to go. We can check here. This thing's still going. So now I will show you guys how to go ahead and do Firefox instead of Brave if you wanted to go that route. But we will actually use Brave to get Firefox. And we can go here to Edge since we're not using it anymore and close out. So now, just as we did for Brave, we will search for Firefox. Go ahead and click the download, and just like before, it will prompt us down here once the installer is downloaded. Or it will prompt us right here. We tried this a time or two. There we go, now we're in the bottom left, now that it's actually downloading. It's all done. We'll click that to go ahead and run it. And then it should prompt us again with the user access. And there's our prompt. We can go ahead and run yes, and it will install Firefox for us. I've had it on here before, and we're just going to reinstall. Yours would have automatically gone. All right, so now we have Firefox installed. We can go ahead and exit out of Brave. And if you would like to, like I do, run off of the taskbar down here, we can minimize this, and we can drag these down here. Now this one's already down here. So actually I can show you two ways to do it. Since this isn't pinned yet, or it wasn't, and I just unpinned it, one way to do it is to right-click a program already running and to pin it down here. So now when we close out here, it will stay down here. Another way to do it is to simply drag and drop. So we can open up Firefox here to adjust some of our settings. So this is the vanilla version of Firefox. You can see we have our web search here, some of our top sites. As we use Firefox, these will update to our most used sites, so they're very quick access. And then down here, there's some highlights, some news stuff, and we can actually turn that stuff off. So if we go into our customization gear here, we will have the home settings. We can see the home page, and new windows are Firefox, and new tabs are also set to the Firefox home page. So that front page I just showed you, this is the content for it. So we want our web search here. I like my top sites there, so I usually leave that there. I'd turn off sponsored though, because I don't want to see a sponsored top site. I want to see my top sites. And then I usually turn off all the highlights and snippets. And then if we hit our home, we can see that it's been cleaned up quite a bit. We just have our search and our top sites. So now if we go up here to the gear again, go into more settings, we're done with our home, but we can go over here to the left and we can go down into our search and adjust that. I'm fine with just the single address bar up here to both search and URL search. But if you are one who likes to search next to the URL search, you can select that. and I'll show you what it looks like real quick. So it pops up here. I like it the first way, so I'm going to do it that way. Our default search engine is set to Google. As I explained earlier when we went through the Brave web browser setup, it recommends DuckDuckGo, and so do I, so I'm going to change that to DuckDuckGo. And when we search the web, we are now going to be using DuckDuckGo instead of Google. If you had kept that Google, this would have searched through Google's search engine instead of DuckDuckGo. We can click out of that and go back into our settings here. I'm fine with suggestions. If you wanted to be super crazy, you could turn that off. Cut that. Never mind. Yeah, definitely cut that. Down here into our search shortcuts, when you search, you will have the option to go down here and kind of redirect your search for one search, and that's what this is that we're about to do. So as you saw, I selected DuckDuckGo to be my default search engine, but if I searched horses and I clicked Google, just for this single search, if I press enter, it's going to search Google for us. I think that's pretty helpful. As I explained earlier, DuckDuckGo can sometimes not get you exactly what you want, so in the cases that it doesn't, you can flip over to Google real quick, but primarily use DuckDuckGo all the other times. I never use Bing, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. All I did was hit the delete key. Another thing you could do is go down here and hit remove. That's another way to do it. So that's it for our search settings. We can go into our privacy settings now. You can see there's a few options here. You can go standard, which does as it says right here. Pages will load normally, but it will also protect you from social media trackers, cross-site tracking cookies, tracking content in private windows, crypto miners and fingerprinters. You can go strict, which is usually what I do. Standard is fine, but I like my stuff locked down pretty good. This blocks social media trackers, cross-site cookies, tracking content in all windows, crypto miners and fingerprinters. It gives you a little heads up with as much as you're blocking. Sometimes websites that require some of the stuff you block won't work right, so just be prepared if some of your websites look a little odd or things won't load properly. And then you can go into a custom one, but I'm not going to do that now, but strict is pretty tight. We can choose to send do not track signals to web pages because we don't want them to track us, so we can go ahead and turn that on. If you wanted to, you can delete cookies every time Firefox closes. It'll even delete the good cookies that remember you when you go to a website. So if you were logged into Amazon, it's going to place a cookie so it knows that your computer that connected to their services, the next time it connects, it's going to remember that you are who you are logged in as, and the next time you connect, you will be automatically logged in. If we turned this on and exited out and we went back to Amazon, it's not going to remember who we are because that cookie got deleted. I'm here and there on it. Usually I don't turn this on. Down into logins and passwords, if you like to use your web browser's password manager, you can have it save logins and passwords, which is what a lot of people do. I have my own password manager, but this is fine as well. So we can just leave that on. We can say if we do or don't want the Firefox web browser and any other web browser in this case. This isn't entirely specific to Firefox. A lot of these settings can also be changed in our Brave down here and our Microsoft Edge over here. And we're just doing it in Firefox for this demonstration. I like to have my history remembered because it becomes very easy. If I was searching somewhere the other day and I couldn't remember what the site was called, I can just pull up my history and click on and find that site that I couldn't remember. Next is address bar, It's going to have some suggestions for us. We can leave that on unless you want it turned off. And then you can go into some of the permissions here. And I think we denied location data when we installed Windows, so it's going to deny that. And then the rest don't have access unless you specifically give it access. So we can leave that. I like to block pop-up windows, and I also like websites to warn me when it tries to install something if I haven't told it to install. We can go down here, and while they collect information and it is anonymous, I still opt out of this collection and installation of studies being ran. And then you can see all past data will be deleted within 30 days. Further down, we get into our security, a bit on deceptive content and dangerous software protection. We want to block dangerous and deceptive content, block dangerous downloads, and then we want to be warned when unwanted and uncommon software is attempted to be installed, whether it be on its own or from our own doing. And then I usually leave that one checked as well. Our last setting on our privacy page here is the HTTPS only mode. If you only want to use HTTPS, you can turn that on, or we could have it off for websites that use HTTP still. We can just leave that as not enabled. If you have different devices that use Firefox, you can sync them together. I don't have any in this demonstration, so we're going to go ahead and skip this. So down here into our extensions and themes, we can click on that. And this is where we can go get our ad blocking extension. Brave had its own built-in when you downloaded it. And while Firefox has some capability to block the stuff that we saw and set earlier, some third-party ad blockers give you that extra protection. I would definitely recommend at least one on your web browser. I don't think it's necessary if you're using Brave. I think one is enough. I think if you have two stacked on top of each other, I think one is not being beneficial, so I don't think it's necessary. One that I like is uBlock. We can search up here in the top right, and we can hit enter. And it pulls up uBlock Origin. And right next to it is the other one that is recommended called AdBlock Ultimate. But I'm going to go ahead and do the uBlock one. Right here, we can add this to Firefox. And it's just going to prompt you. This extension will have the permission to access data, access your data for all websites, read and modify privacy settings, access browser tabs, and access browser activity. So it's all kind of within the browser. Some stuff that you download will ask to do things outside of what it should be able to do. And this is even more so something to watch on mobile phones. But these are all okay, so we can go ahead and add. And we can see that it automatically went up here. And then it prompted us to allow this extension to run in private windows. I think that's fine. And so we will go ahead and check that and hit OK. So now that it's installed, we can click out of that, go out of that, out of this, and we are back on our home page. And we can actually click out of this as well and go back to our stuff here. So we can see down here that our updates are getting close. We actually still have our gear open here. So we can click on that and see that one update is still installing. It's at 21%, and the other one's ready to go. We don't want to restart until this one's done, or once you restart and then it loads back up, this one's going to start all the way over. So that can go. And you have a fully functioning version of Windows 10. As you saw earlier, we did not activate our Windows 10. So we will go in and I will show you how to do that real quick. Without a key. I don't have a key, but I'll show you where to go. So now that we're still waiting on Windows updates to finish, we can go down here to our search box and we can type activation, hit enter and go into that. So as you can see, Windows is telling us that it is not activated. There's some Windows features that are disabled. If you use an unactivated version of Windows, you would go to their website and purchase a product key or go to their store. And then this is where you would put that in. You would hit change product key and you would type it in, the big long jumble of letters and numbers. You would hit next and then it would activate for you. I don't have a key to demonstrate that for you, but if you have questions, you're welcome to pop by the Jabbit PC store or send us an email at support@jabbitpc.com. This pulled up again. It is still downloading, but is at 74% now. For demonstration purposes, so the only thing at this point to do is just to wait for our installation of this update to finish. We would hit restart, the computer would restart, and the next time it came back up, you would have a up-to-date working version of Windows 10 ready to use. Thank you for tuning into this week's Tech Talk. We hope you got something out of this. If you have any questions, again, shoot us an email at the email in the description, support@jabbitpc.com. We will do our best to leave links to what we did. So if you have any questions that you would rather go look for on your own, you can click those links and we will catch you in the next one. Thank you.